I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
KUGAN CASSIUS IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. We're at the Copper Box Arena. A disappointing night for Joyce.
Really disappointing. I think I, like everybody else, expected Joe to win the fight tonight. I never thought it was going to be an easy fight, and the way I saw it going was Zhang would win a few rounds early on, Joe would come into the fight and get stronger, and he would probably wear Zhang down and stop him. Obviously with the damage to the eye, it was probably the right thing to do. He couldn't see anything come from one side, any of the right hands coming at all. I feel for Joe. I'm disappointed. I never thought I would ever see him hurt as well. And I'm not talking about the eye closing, I'm talking about his legs wobbling a little bit, and that happened tonight. So Zhang's combination punching was fantastic, but I just think hearing from behind the scenes, I think we were hearing stuff like Joe was going to move for 4 rounds and then he's going to apply pressure. After round 1, when you see that's not working, you need to get close to him. And I think the tactic should have been changed a little bit sooner, but look, you know, if your fucking auntie had balls, should be your uncle, and that's just the way it is. But Zhang, without taking anything away, his combination punching was excellent tonight. Excellent.
We saw as the rounds were progressing, we saw the eye was getting worse and worse. It was checked by that doctor 2, maybe 3 times. And in the end, the inevitable was always going to happen. It wasn't getting any better. Obviously, the corner were trying their best to kind of rectify that situation. But as it was progressing, I mean, I was surprised it lasted as long as it did.
I think so. And I think that the doctor was, I was sitting pretty close to ringside, so the doctor was kind of saying how many fingers am I holding up, and I think Joe was able to see a little bit because I think he was answering the questions correctly, but the doctor kind of put it to Hard Foster. It's your call here, and I think he done the right thing, and Joe can live to fight another day. And there's not many men at 37 who you think can come back. And in saying that, Zhang is 39 and he's coming off a loss to Hrgovic, so stranger things have happened. But I think Joe will be back, and I think that it's just a bad night. You know, a southpaw, tricky southpaw, who's a very, very good fighter as well. I feel for the big man, really do.
It would have been interesting to see the fight obviously progress into the second half.
That's what I'm saying to people, and I don't want to sound like I'm all on Joe here, not giving Zhang credit, but the way I seen it going was it was going to be a difficult first half of the fight. Joe was going to come on strong, and he'd probably stop him late. And if the eye hadn't have been swelling, it probably would have went that way anyway. But again, you can't take anything away from Zhang. He was very, very good.
I was horrendous though, wasn't it?
It was horrendous. It was a mess. And there may be a little bit more damage there, but it didn't look like just a black eye. It looked like there could be a little bit more damage, and hopefully not. And hopefully Joe has a rest and recovers and comes back and
rematch.
Well, yeah, I think there's a rematch clause in it, and I think you probably, knowing Joe, he'll jump straight back in. If you had the chance, you would love one before Zhang again, but I think he'll jump back in, and I for one would look forward to it.
Absolutely, and Zhang's going to be a problem. I know he's 40, but he'll be a problem for anyone. I mean, we saw the Hrgovic fight, everyone's got their opinion about that fight back in last year. Now this performance, he's opening himself up for some huge fights. Yeah,
loads of fights, and now he's one of Alexander Usyk's mandatories, but he still has that option to fight Joe because of the rematch clause. So it's kind of whether Joe wants to have the fight with him or not, or he waits and maybe fights him further down the line. But it's far from the end of the road for Joe. I still think he comes back, and I still genuinely believe that he'll be a world champion one day.
Carl Frampton, I know you're on your way out and you've had a long night, so thank you very much for your time, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
All about it to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.